Are the Denver Broncos overachieving, underachieving, or performing just how we expected? We're diving into that question, not just about the Broncos, but about Sean Payton, Bo Nix, Vance Joseph, and the rest of the team, and it all starts now. Victory Monday, Henry.
What?
A victory Friday, a victory Saturday, a victory Sunday, a victory Monday.
Victory
and we'll
Tuesday?
continue it this week with a victory Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And then you know what? We'll continue it into the following week because, Henry, I think we saw the first sign that the Denver Broncos are back, and we'll get into it on the DNVR Broncos Show, coming to you live from the Toyota Lounge, driven by your local Front Range Toyota stores inside the DNVR Bar. And of course, the DNVR Broncos Podcast is presented by Bet365. Use that code DNVR365 when you sign up to get all the boosts. Henry, how we doing today?
Oh, not bad.
Not bad? Why not like great?
Why not great? I mean, it's a Monday morning. People on the
fair.
internet are going crazy. You know, it is what it is.
Crazy about you?
Crazy against me. People are mad
what
at me.
did you do this time?
Oh, nothing, actually. They just say that I'm a hater and all that sort of stuff, and I'm just not sure why.
What? Were you just pulling for the Chiefs last night or what?
No, wasn't pulling for the Chiefs. I did profit off the Chiefs because plus money was pretty crazy, but no, wasn't pulling for them.
I just can't believe that they were dogs again.
Yeah.
And how about that? The Broncos have a better record than the team that was favored to win the Super Bowl this year. The 4-3 Broncos, better record than the 3-4 San Francisco 49ers.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, good for them. It's great, 4-3.
Yeah,
I don't know what the Niners have anything to do with it, but the Broncos are 4-3.
Oh, better record than the
Okay.
better record. If you would have told me at any point this season the Broncos are going to have a better record than the 49ers, especially the last weekend of October, I would have signed up for that in a heartbeat.
Better than the Bengals too.
Oh, way better. Two games better than the Bengals? No, Bengals are 3-4 now. They're starting to get their, what did they start? 1-4, I think. Now they're on a little 2-game win streak. They're putting things together, which isn't necessarily the best news for the Broncos because that's a team who's going to be competing. But hey, the Broncos and Bengals game, that game could be juicy come the end of December.
Yeah, no. You just have to hope in theory, that game, the Chargers game at the end, it's all about just not screwing it up because they're in good position right now.
And speaking of the Chargers game, the Chargers play the Cardinals tonight in Arizona. Cardinals, I think, are a 1.5-point underdog at home. If the Cardinals pull off that slight upset, the Broncos will be in a playoff spot at the end of week 7, which is just incredible, especially where the Broncos started from. And you can even go back, not just the 0-2 start, but you can go way further back to when the Broncos got rid of Russell Wilson to take on the biggest cap hit in NFL history times 2. And it seemed like they were going through a rebuild, cutting Justin Simmons. And then you get to the 0-2 start with the rookie quarterback, and you're like, okay, man, this is just about, can Bo Nix be the guy? And now it's like, okay, that's still obviously the top priority, seeing that, but there's some bigger things on the horizon for the Broncos, like looking at the playoff spot. So I think everyone in Broncos country is saying, go Cardinals tonight.
Would you rather we live in like this world right now, or say the Broncos are like 1-6, I guess it would be, but Bo Nix is putting up Jaden Daniels numbers?
Ooh, I would rather just have the Jaden Daniels world. Where,
really?
Well, maybe not after yesterday. He's got a little injury to him. But why not just Bo Nix and you're 5-2? Like
No. Like but you're
Commanders are?
1-6.
Okay. You know, at the end of the day, it's all about the quarterback. But I'll take where Bo is right now. Better stats than Patrick Mahomes.
Yep.
And the Broncos are a winning record. And we're going to dive into all of this, and we'll get into Bo specifically. But Henry, I talked about how there's a number indicating the Broncos are back. The Broncos opened up as 7.5-point favorites over the Carolina Panthers this week. Do you know the last time the Broncos were a touchdown or more favorite was?
No.
I don't know either, but it's got to be years, right?
I wonder. I mean, there are always some bad teams in the NFL. I wonder what they were against the Patriots last year. The weather was too bad for probably a wide spread.
Probably under a touchdown.
Yeah. I'll check.
It's actually, it's probably fairly easy to look. That would be because it wouldn't have been the year before. Because the year before they started off in Seattle, and that's when the Broncos had a lot of hope behind them. But it was in Seattle. I think the Broncos were like a 2-point favorite or something like that. And then the rest of the season just completely went off the tracks. So that's something where, probably not that season. And then the year before, you're talking about, Teddy and Drew, and then Case Keenum and Joe Flacco. Those teams didn't have a lot of hype around them at all. And that's what betting odds are, is like hype around them. Broncos obviously have a little bit of hype around them nationally. People are starting to believe in them a little bit. But more so, the Panthers are just absolute trash.
Yeah. No, they are very bad. Again, it's very similar to me to last week, where it's just a game the Broncos should win, and because of that, it's not really a fun game as much as it's like a nervous game. Whereas like you go into Baltimore, Kansas City the next couple of weeks, people have low expectations, but it's an opportunity to kind of prove yourself. It's another game where like there's really not much to gain, I think, from a national perspective or from Denver perspective. Like it's kind of just assumed to be a win. And there's just some danger that comes with that.
Oh, last week was not assumed to be a win. I said it was a guaranteed win. Everyone's saying, there's no guarantees. What do you type? People were jumping on me. That was a guaranteed win. The Broncos won 33-3. And get rid of that garbage time touchdown. The Broncos won by 30 points, covered the spread with ease, and really the game was never in question at halftime. Once the Broncos came out of halftime, the game was over, especially when they held the Saints to a 3-and-out, got the ball back, and then they just took off. That's a fun football game. That's what this week's going to be. I'm not nervous about the Carolina Panthers. They have proven that they are the worst team in the NFL. Their young coach is not proving to be very good. He's making rash decisions left and right. And the Panthers are awful. They're terrible. Jaden Daniels went out of the game at 10-0. Their starting quarterback. They turned to Marcus Mariota, just a career backup, and they absolutely continued to take off. The Commanders did over the Panthers. Guys, the Broncos are a good enough team where we can say this is going to be a fun weekend. The Broncos are going to take care of business. You can trust this team now.
That's insane to me. I picked it. So last year, the Patriots game, they're only 7-point favorites.
7, so they get the hook this year.
It was the year before against Houston. They were 10-point favorites.
Wow.
Yep, 116-9.
So didn't cover the spread.
Didn't cover.
Who was their quarterback? Because it was the year in between Stroud and Deshaun.
Probably.
Man, Broncos maybe should have beat that team by more than, but I guess that's why it was Vic Fangio's last season. Or no, that was Hackett.
That was Hackett. Yep.
Wow, that is wild. When was that game in the season?
Early, I thought. September 18th.
September 18th. Oh, week 2. Okay. Yep. Wow. So that was the game right after the Seahawks game. That's right. That's right. Man, so no, you guys tell me in the comment section, because last week you guys crushed me for saying the Broncos are absolutely going to win. Broncos absolutely won, so I'm going to take a little victory lap right here on that one. And again, I'm saying it. The Broncos are going to win this week, and it's going to be a fun game. Are you guys still crushing me, or do you guys trust the Broncos like I trust them? Henry, you're a little more skeptical?
I mean, there's just no guaranteed wins in the NFL. Like, that's just not the way the league works.
When you play the Carolina Panthers, there's a guaranteed win.
I mean, it wasn't for the Raiders.
Yeah, unless you're a trash Raiders team. Trash Raiders team.
But the Raiders, which would mean they should have been a guaranteed win for the Ravens.
Yeah,
because they lost the Panthers, but then you lost that one. So I mean, it is what it is. Like, you really should win, and that's what you want going into a game. But it's the NFL. Like, that's just not how it works. You gotta go out there and play the game.
Yeah, no, and that's why they will go out and play the game. I love it. Mile High Singh says he trusts the Broncos. I love it. Okay, little more believing in the Broncos this year. And speaking of believing, Henry, I want to dive into kind of take a look around this entire team. Are parts of this team and players and coaches with this team overachieving, underachieving, or doing right about what they should be doing with the team this year? And let's take a look and start at the top with head coach Sean Payton. Is he overachieving, underachieving, or doing what he should be doing? Let us know in the Toyota chat when we go through these what you guys think. We want to hear from you. And before we do that, I want to give a shout out to our friends over at Premier Members Credit Union. And of course, most Americans are living paycheck to paycheck right now. And if you're one of them, you got to check out Premier Members Credit Union. They're a financial institution based right here in Colorado. And with PMCU, you get local branches, friendly tellers, and the tools you need to save smarter, like a reverse tier money market. It's the account you need to get ahead and stay ahead in this economy. This is an organization that serves the community and the Colorado community in particular. Whatever your goals are, they can help. PMCU is all about creating a better banking experience for their community. So why not see what they can do for you? Check out becomepremier.com to learn more. That's becomepremier.com to learn more. And again, they have that reverse tier money market system that helps you save smarter, which is key for everyone right now. So if you want to see what they can do for you, check them out at becomepremier.com. That's becomepremier.com to learn more.
And join UC Health's Ready, Set, Co Challenge. You can join a bunch of us, including Coach Prime, in trying to make Colorado the healthiest state in the nation. There's a bunch of different ways you can help out, whether it's getting more sleep. 8 hours of sleep really makes people more productive the next day, helps reset the body, but also going to the gym more, walking, taking the stairs instead of the elevator, just making little decisions throughout the day, healthier snacks, eating some vegetables and fruits instead of just getting junk food. There's just a bunch of different ways that you can make yourself just a little bit healthier. And if everybody does that, then the Ready, Set, Co Challenge will succeed. We will become the healthiest state in the country once again. Like I mentioned, one of Coach Prime's big pushes is for sleep. To make sure that you're getting those 8 hours, helps neurologically, helps in a bunch of different ways. So if you want to join UCHealth's Ready, Set, Co Challenge, click the link in the show notes or go to www.uchealth.org/readysetco.
All right, Henry. Is Sean, and shout out to our presenting partner, Bet365. Use that code DNVR365 when you sign up. Is Sean Payton overachieving, underachieving, or right where he should be?
I'd say he's probably doing what he should do. I think, in general, maybe the play calling, the creativity on offense, I've been disappointed with in general. I think, in particular, there aren't, for the most part, there haven't been enough quarterback runs. Getting Bo to use his legs. I know there's like the scrambles, and so the numbers look good, but I think that there was a lot more room for that, and I think maybe some more wins out there if you do that sort of thing.
So then you love the play on Thursday night where Bo took it on 3rd and short and went for, 30 yards on the ground?
No, definitely. And I wrote all about it. I think the reason I go with probably about the same is just because against the Saints, there finally was all that creativity. How many times did I said you got to try Marvin Mims at running back, use him in a Deebo Samuel type way, and they finally did it. And, it worked fine. We weren't crazy results, but when it gets you an 8-yard gain on a first down, that's a lot better than what you're used to seeing from this Broncos offense. So I think because of what's happened recently, I'll say it's about what I expected, but it's certainly trending in the right way, and I hope that they're able to continue some of that. Also, I should plug this. TheDNVR.com, I picked out, it's probably like 14 or 15 plays, just the creativity and the play design that they were using on Thursday. It's finally what you wanted to see from Sean Payton.
Yeah, and Sean is getting receivers open. We saw it last week, the first drive where he has two guys wide open and Bo just throws it right in between the two of them. Now, has it been perfect play calling? No. Has Bo been the best rookie quarterback in this draft class? No, he hasn't been. So those things kind of fall on Sean. But when I look at Sean, all of the things that you said, Henry, are definitely part of his job description and things that he controls. But he's a head football coach. At the end of the day, that record reflects more on him than anyone else. And the Broncos are overachieving, I think, right now. They're 2 wins away from hitting their over. After this coming week, they'll be 1 win away from hitting their over with 9 games left. So in terms of like you and I and Todd and Broncos Country were higher on the Broncos than the rest of the country. But when you look at the rest of the country's expectations, Broncos are way overachieving right now.
Definitely.
And that does fall on Sean Payton. He was the one that hired Vance Joseph, and we'll talk about Vance in a second. He was the one to take the very bold move of moving on from Russell Wilson with that $80 million cap hit. Shout out Russ playing in yesterday's game. Maybe we'll talk about that at the end of the show too, because I want to ask you, are you cheering for Russ or are you rooting against Russ? And he's the one that identified Bo Nix and drafted him, and that was incredibly risky. 6th quarterback taken, and you're taking him with the 12th pick in the draft. That's never been done before. And right now, those big moves are paying off for Sean right now. So I would say he is overachieving overall. And you do take more of a team perspective with that. But sure, are there things he can be better in? Of course there are. But right now, 4-3, I would have signed up for that. I think any Broncos fan would have signed up for that 7 weeks into the season. So I think he's overachieving with what this entire team is doing.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. I just think he deserves some credit for that defense. But again, like, I would say expectation-wise, Vance Joseph would be overachieving more, and that's why, you know, the hire was a couple years ago. And I guess you could give him like retroactive credit for that, but it to me, again, offensively, I wouldn't say that they're all that much better. They're obviously trending up. I think 21st in points, 26th in yards. I think coming in the season, we probably expected, you know, that low 20s, and the momentum's in the right place. And I think the things that Sean Payton really has his fingerprints are, it's been a little bit up and down from what I've seen, but we're on an upswing, and I think that momentum is going to keep going. So, yeah, I think it all averages out to about what you probably would have expected at this point.
So now let's go to Bo Nix, the guy that is the biggest story of the Broncos so far.
Yeah.
Where is he, Henry, for you 7 games into the season?
I think if you were just to look at the stats, you'd say he's underachieving. But I don't think that really... Stats are dumb in football. Stats don't matter in football. I think he's probably where you would have expected. I think, again, as Sean Payton said this morning, you know, he's probably running better than people expected. You know, we had talked a lot about how his athleticism gets underrated and all that sort of stuff. But I think that he's, in terms of a rusher, he's probably overachieved. I think in terms of finding open receivers, deciding where to throw the ball, maybe he's slightly overachieved. Expectations there were so high that maybe not. I think in terms of actually throwing the ball accurately and the footwork, I think you probably expected more polish at this point, and that really hasn't been the case. But I think that if you took everything all together, you would say just about average. Now, you also, I mean, we didn't expect as many turnovers as there have been, but that was all toward the beginning. I'll just say he's probably about what you would have expected. Again, maybe there is a slight upward trend recently.
I agree. I think he's about right where you could have expected him to be. I think maybe in the past couple of weeks he is overachieving. 75 rushing yards from a quarterback is insane from what he had in this Saints game. And I do think that that's a big component to help rookie quarterbacks out. If you have some other trait that can help you buy time as a pure pocket passer, maybe it's the ability to scramble. Maybe it's and a lot for a lot of guys, it's the ability to run. Josh Allen was a bad passer as a quarterback the first 2 years in the NFL. What helped him so much was that second year, he was the best running quarterback in the NFL, the second best outside of Lamar, and that bought him time to become now a guy who is 15 passing touchdowns to 0 interceptions. He was a 50% completion guy in his first year in the NFL, but he had that extra added dimension, and that is something that we can't sleep on with Bo right now, because that is going to help him buy time. And then also it's going to help him develop as a quarterback, because now he's not just being asked to stay in the pocket. And we know his footwork needs to improve, but it's not something that you have to that has to improve in order for him to improve, because he can also run the ball, and that's going to help improve. And Sean talked about it today in his press conference that he had just about an hour before the show started. He said he's not really worried about Bo Nix's footwork because he does enough things in the pocket. He steps up in the pocket. He has a pocket presence. And they don't want to put too much emphasis and focus too much on his footwork now where he's overthinking about it. And I thought that was very interesting because from afar, that's what pretty much everyone's point to with Bo is like, man, he's got some fidgety feet right now and he needs to calm them down in the pocket. And Sean's saying, yeah, but we're not going to focus too much on it because we don't want him, like, when he's back there, instead of progressing through the reads, just thinking about his footwork. Are you kind of second-guessing that?
I mean, he's not wrong. You just have to pick what the emphasis is right now. And there's just so much to teach him about the offense. You want to expand it, and there's so many people complaining. There's no pre-snap motion. There's no this, no that. Well, it's because you're running a simplified offense. And so you can try to work with him on, understanding the game a little bit better, trying to get out of some of those more simple offenses. But if you're spending your time with him on that, then you're not spending your time on footwork. And maybe that's something you do more so in the off season. So it is just pick and choose your areas. I mean, what if Andy Reid had told Patrick Mahomes, we need better footwork from you? And they'd spent the first, the year he's on the bench working on that, and the second year after that, well, then all of a sudden he's not making all those off-platform throws because you've coached him out of them. It's something we've talked about. Again, there's more preseason than now, but it's great to have that perfect footwork, but it does take away those off-platform opportunities. The thing is, even Mahomes still misses some of those throws because he doesn't set his feet, and that's kind of a bad habit. His arm is just so good at this point that it doesn't matter. And for Bo, it's more about him knowing when you can use good footwork and when you don't have to, and not just like fading off your back foot when you're throwing the ball and then sailing it, or not setting your feet or opening up your hips and then all of a sudden you're spiking it. Because again, like Thursday night, he could have thrown for 300 yards. That was out there for him. I mean, there were the back-to-back incompletions where he just didn't hit the receiver early in the game, which could have been a touchdown drive. But sometimes when you have those athletes, you just kind of have to live with it. And that's more, I'm not sure if I think the coaches probably taught him how to use good footwork. It's just deciding when to use that and when not to, and hopefully he kind of finds that line himself. Then the offseason there is probably, you can clean up a bit more.
And I just thought it was fascinating that Sean said, like, essentially we want him to get better with the footwork, but we're not going to like make that the number one priority where he's overthinking it. And that's just an interesting thing for me to hear, probably for fans to hear as well, because you're like, man, footwork's supposed to be everything for a quarterback. And Sean's like, yeah, but we don't want him focusing too much on it. So that's going to be interesting.
There's just too much to do during the week.
For sure, yeah. And during the game and during one play, you have, 2.5 seconds to throw the ball? You don't want to be spending 2 seconds focusing on your footwork on that. So that is something where the ability to run the ball helps him buy more time to build on these other things in his game.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, that's the draft podcast. We talk about that all the time. It's just, that's the recipe for young quarterbacks is you get thrown in early. There's no sitting and learning. You're not going to be ready when you take the field the first time. And Bo obviously is not as polished as you would like, but you just have to survive that the first 2 or 3 seasons, and maybe less if things pop for you. For CJ Stroud, it was like half a season before he started getting everything just dialed in. But he's athletic enough to do that, and I think hopefully you see more designed quarterback runs, because that would just make things a lot easier for him. It gets him in the game without worrying about trying to hit all these receivers, which sometimes he doesn't do.
Totally agree. I totally agree about that. I love that design run that Sean had for him in the Saints game. And, man, did you see Garrett Bowles, how fired up he was? He was celebrating that run like he just won the Super Bowl.
He's excited.
He's very excited. He called Bo Nix a dual-threat quarterback, and I think that's something that is very true and just gets thrown under the radar because he isn't as fast as Lamar Jackson. He's not as big as Josh Allen, and he's trucking guys left and right. He is a dual-threat quarterback. The number one dual-threat quarterback coming out of high school?
In
his class? Insane. So don't sleep on that. And you said something, and I wanted to ask you the question. And I forgot what it was. If I remember, we'll come back to that. But let's stats wise.
Yeah.
I don't
not
think
great.
I don't think it's
Really?
as bad as you think when it comes to Bo Nix. He has better stats than Patrick Mahomes.
Well, I would
Patrick Mahomes
disagree about
entering this
that.
past week. You disagree with that?
Yeah.
How?
I mean, it's like passer rating. 74.4 versus like, I'm sure Mahomes is in the 80s or maybe not 90s, probably in the 80s.
Bo Nix,
just a nice summation of it all.
Now-
but there is the touchdown interception ratio.
There's a touchdown to interception ratio.
There is that one.
There's more touchdowns for Bo Nix than Patrick Mahomes in terms of combined. Bo Nix has, so I'll read these numbers to you. Now,
Okay.
Patrick Mahomes has played one more game than Bo Nix, or one fewer game than Bo Nix. He has 1,389 passing yards. Bo Nix has 1,246 passing yards. Patrick Mahomes has 6 passing touchdowns. Bo Nix has 5 passing touchdowns. So advantage Mahomes slightly there, especially with the extra game that Bo's played. Give him the boost there. Patrick Mahomes has played one fewer game than Bo Nix and has 3 more interceptions. He has 8 picks on the season. Bo Nix has 5 interceptions. Patrick Mahomes has 122 rushing yards. Bo Nix has 255 rushing yards. Patrick Mahomes has 1 rushing touchdown. Bo Nix has 3 rushing touchdowns. Bo Nix has 8 total touchdowns to 5 picks. Patrick Mahomes has 7 total touchdowns to 8 interceptions. Am I saying Bo Nix is better than Patrick Mahomes? Of course not. But look at kind of the numbers. Now, Josh Allen is going crazy. 15 touchdowns to no interceptions. He should, without a doubt, be the front runner for MVP right now, at least in my book, what he's doing with that Buffalo Bills team. Entering this past week, Patrick Mahomes was the favorite to be the MVP, and he has these terrible numbers. And Bo Nix arguably has slightly better numbers than Patrick Mahomes. So I do think that quarterback numbers, I mean, you saw Brock Purdy also really struggle yesterday. 0 touchdowns, 3 picks in that game yesterday. His numbers aren't that good. Quarterback numbers as a whole are down right now. So I think we kind of need to look at that as well. Now, obviously, Jaden Daniels is having an incredible season statistically and with the eye test. But I think when people just look at Bo Nix's numbers, they're like, oh, man, 1-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio, terrible. Look around the league. There's a lot of other quarterbacks that are struggling in that category as well.
Yeah. There are other quarterbacks who are struggling, but that doesn't mean that Bo is. I mean, he 5 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, 74 pass. You go through all the quarterbacks since Peyton, and if you just go by pass rating, Drew Lock is better. Jeff Driscoll, Paxton Lynch, Drew Lock in a different season. I maybe should have summed these up instead of just season by season. But Case Keenum, Russell Wilson in 2022, Russell Wilson 2023, Trevor Siemian again, Joe Flacco, Jarrett Stidham, Drew Lock, Teddy Bridgewater. So wait,
tell me how passer rating's made though.
Well, it just combines them all. It's just a nice summation of completion percentage.
Can you give me the four?
With yards per attempt, with touchdown percentage, with interception percentage.
Well, so give me how they create passer rating.
Yeah. That's I'm not sure exactly how they weight them all, but those are the pieces.
Yeah, so we're not really sure how it's made, but
we know
we're
how
just
it's
trusting
made.
that.
We know.
You just said
the
I just
formula's
asked
out
you.
there. The formula's out there though. Like if you wanted to, you could see what the formula is. Like it is just, I think, by far the best rate stat in terms of quarterbacks, just because it is a summation of all the big categories.
What about sacks though? That's not included in there.
No, sacks
Rushing
are not
yards,
included.
Rushing touchdowns.
No,
any of
those
that?
are rushing stats. But again, like the point is, going back to the beginning, it doesn't really matter. The point is just that, like, statistically, not a great season for Bo so far. Again, he's a rookie. It is what it is. All the interceptions came early. It's not that big of a deal, but it's not. I was the one who even said that the stats don't even matter. He's playing well.
No, you're saying stats matter.
No, I'm not saying stats matter. You're just I don't know. It is what it is. They're just, I wouldn't worry about them.
And I totally agree.
Yeah.
That's kind of where I'm at, is Bo's doing enough right now. And then you look at stats. Stats are crazy bad for some other quarterbacks right now. And Bo's in line with a guy named Patrick Mahomes in terms of stats. So I just feel like people knock on Bo a lot for that 1-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio. Well, they better be absolutely killing Patrick Mahomes, and that's not what they're doing. They're giving Patrick Mahomes all of his flowers. Now, Patrick Mahomes is undefeated. Bo Nix is not, but Bo Nix does have a winning record. So just interesting. That's why I bring it out, is that I think that's just a very fascinating dynamic that's going on right now. Okay, let's jump to other positions on this Broncos offense before we take a look at the Broncos defense. But first, I want to give a shout out to our friends over at Coors Light. We always have Coors Light on the set, and I know there were some Coors Lights drank between us and between the DNVR Bar this weekend. And man, we're getting into Coors Light season because, of course, we got Broncos to chill with on Sundays, and now we're getting Nuggets and Avs as well. And Coors Light is all about chilling, whether it's chilling to watch a game, whether it's chilling with your friends, whether it's chilling after a hot day. We're still in the 70s here in Denver this week. Coors Light is all about chilling because it's brewed chilled, it's bottled chilled, it's served chilled. And if you want to chill with Coors Light, you can have it delivered straight to your door by going to CoorsLight.com/DNVR. Make the most out of the times you choose to chill. Choose Coors Light and get Coors Light delivered straight to your door by going to CoorsLight.com/DNVR. Celebrate responsibly. Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado.
Also, check out Bet365. I made a lot of money yesterday. What were the big ones? Oh, Chiefs, of course. Chiefs is underdogs. Plus money. That was an easy one. Steelers last night. That one felt easy, too. A home game for the
dogs?
Steelers. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, they were dogs. They were dogs. Yeah, and then I doubled down when they were down like 15-6 or whatever it was. It's like, the Jets are just so bad. And the fact that they thought they were going to put up any points.
Trash.
Yeah, from the Aaron Rodgers lover over there, too.
No, Aaron Rodgers. What are you talking about?
You're the guy who's always saying the Jets are going to the playoffs and all that stuff.
No, this year I predict.
Yes, you did.
All I've ever heard is Zach say how much he loves Aaron Rodgers.
Oh,
he says all these nice things and
and
then
I've
says
been
he
listening to
hates
Zach
him.
before I even worked here.
No, the Jets,
Yeah.
I'm loving watching their demise. I called Aaron Rodgers' downfall years ago.
Okay, whatever you say. Also, there's all sorts of boosts.
If you're
all that
new
sort
to
of
this
stuff.
show, don't fall for what Henry's saying right now.
You picked the Jets to go to the playoffs last
Well,
year.
you can listen to me, though. It's fine.
It is what
I
it is.
did not pick them to make the playoffs this year.
Okay. Bet365 is awesome. DNVR 365 when you sign up, and you can get one of two awesome offers. Bet $5, get $200 bonus bets, or you can take the first bet insurance. You get your money back in bonus bets if the bet misses. Must be 21 or older, physically located in Colorado. Please gamble responsibly. If you're somebody who has a gambling problem and wants help, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER.
All right, shout out to Bet365. They're presenting sponsor of our show. Henry, instead of going through player by player now, let's do a little position by position, and let's go with the Broncos offense. Overachieving, underachieving, or about where they should be with the receivers.
Yeah. I would say in general, I would honestly say they're probably overachieving my expectations.
Wow.
I would say in
okay.
general, yeah. I mean, you're getting something out of Troy Franklin. You've seen something out of Von Vele. Lil Jordan Humphrey, I'd say, is overachieving. I mean, Court is not. But if they're at worst, he probably weighs them down to neutral. I think Josh Reynolds, when he's been healthy, has certainly overachieved. So yeah, I would go slight overachieving.
Wow, and I'll go slight underachieving, but maybe where they kind of should be, like not too far underachieving. I think Court hasn't been given very many opportunities, and I think he's done good. I think he is overachieving. I think in 2 weeks, if Troy Franklin does what he's done the past 2 weeks, then that will bring the group from underachieving to overachieving. But we've only seen it for kind of 1.5 games now. But I am encouraged. So I would say underachieving, but going in the right direction as a group right now. And I think, man, Troy Franklin or Marvin Mims, but it really seems like it's going to be Troy Franklin, is the key there. It was so encouraging for the Broncos to have how many points on offense? 26 points on offense. And 0 of those points and yards came from Courtland Sutton. That showed that they were getting contributions from other places. Now, obviously, a huge thing was the running game, but yeah, I was really encouraged on that because maybe they meet right in the middle and they're on par about where they should be. But I think the Broncos receivers are trending in the right direction. Would just continue to like to see more from that group. Specifically, man, those young guys. If Troy Franklin can take a step up, that's going to be huge for this group, and I love seeing it last week. Yeah.
No, and again, he's a 4th-round pick. Like, the fact that you've seen anything is a pretty big plus, I think. And I guess it also depends on when you're setting those expectations from, whether it's draft day or whether it's the start of the season. Because start of the season, I mean, he was a game day inactive, but that's kind of what we thought that he would be, is that until somebody gets hurt, he won't really get a chance. And the fact that when he did get a chance, he hasn't, I wouldn't say he's played great, but he hasn't blown his opportunity like sometimes other guys do. I mean, you watched Jalen Polk with the Patriots yesterday, and it's like, wow, that's good thing the Broncos got Troy Franklin and set him. And I loved him coming back out, and he's, I still think, going to be a good player, but he's a rookie 4th-round pick, and the fact that you've seen anything is, I think, good news.
Totally fair. Totally fair. All right, let's go to the running back position, Henry. And this might be the toughest one, at least for me, to kind of wrap my mind around. What do you think?
Estime is underachieved. Jaleel has... I guess I didn't have huge expectations. I'll say he's met my expectations. And then Javonte... It just honestly depends on how reasonable you were. I think that there are a lot of people who kind of thought maybe this was like Pro Bowl year and all that sort of stuff. That hasn't happened. I'll say he's about what I expected. The couple good games recently have picked up the numbers, and I'll say as a whole, Bidet looked solid. You haven't really seen much. I'll say right at expectation. Maybe slight underachieve if you had to pick a side.
I'm right there with you. Slight underachieving. Javonte, man, the inconsistency has been wild with him. You've had games where he's been 6.3 yards per carry. That was, of course, last week. First 3 weeks of the season, the best he had was 2.9. Then 1.5, 2.4. He is trending in the right direction in the past 4 weeks. 3 of the 4 weeks, he's been better than a 4.7 yards per carry, so that's very encouraging. But then it's those other guys. It's the role players. And Henry, the Broncos have a problem with Audric Estime right now. Man, I love him as a person. I love what he brings to the field. But 2 fumbles in, 2 games that he's played in? 3 games that he's played in?
It's not
and
good.
he's had less than 10 total carries, and he has 2 fumbles. That's an issue right now. So the combination of those 3 guys probably underachieving. I do think Jaleel's underachieving. I did think
Fair.
I had high extra expectations for him. So slightly underachieving, but Javonte is trending in the right direction, which gives me a lot of hope. Like I said, 3 of the past 4 games, he's had a better than 4.7 yards per carry. So maybe he's just the workhorse, and that's what the Broncos do the rest of the season is just give him a way bigger workload. Instead of trying to split it 2 or 3 ways, I would be okay with that. So slight underachieving, but man, if Javonte can continue what he's doing, that's good news. Do we end with slightly better or the worst, Henry?
Whatever you think.
Let's go tight ends. Let's get it out of the way.
That's right on the number. I mean, you got what you expected. That's that group is.
Whoa.
I mean, they weren't good last year. They aren't good this year. I mean, you could say they're underachieving for sure, but I mean, they literally had the fewest receiving yards of any group of tight ends in the NFL last year, and I'm not sure what the numbers are this year, but I'd imagine they're pretty close. It just I didn't have high hopes for that group.
That's fair. But
it is what it is.
I know what you're saying, but I did have higher hopes for this group because of Greg Dulcich. His emergence in training camp was so encouraging. He was a beast in training camp. It looked like the Broncos had themselves a legit tight end 1. In fact, man, there were some people saying he was going to be a top 10 tight end in terms of receiving in the NFL. And Greg Dulcich has now been inactive multiple weeks in a row. The Broncos have all but given up on him. Sean Payton says that's not the case. They say it just depends on the matchup between it's Lucas Kroll or him. The way Lucas Kroll played last week, he's going to be the guy moving forward. And as your number 1 tight end that Lucas Kroll is right now, he has 6 catches for 57 yards in 7 games. Less than 10 yards per game. I mean, how underwhelming as a group. Adam Troutman has 2 catches for 32 yards. Greg Dulcich has 5 catches for 28 yards. This has been just another year of so underachieving from this group. This is by far the most disappointing group in my mind. Especially just like, man, we thought Greg Dulcich, at least, okay, I thought Greg Dulcich was going to be something. And now the Broncos have given up on him pretty much officially now. So let's hope Lucas Kroll can pick up where he left off last week. But after 1 week, I'm not going to say like, oh, man, my entire expectations for this group have already changed.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be fun. I wasn't the highest on Lucas Kroll either. Like, it's just not a group that's built to be successful. Also, in the past 10 years, there have been 38 receivers drafted in the 4th round. Troy Franklin has 110 yards which ranks 14th of those 38
Like in their rookie season?
in their rookie season.
Okay. I
So
like
he's
it.
already like,
Yeah.
and it doesn't feel like he's done all that much. That's just the nature of 4th round rookies.
Who's the best one in that bunch?
Amon-Ra St. Brown had 912 as a rookie. Second was Jamison Crowder at 604. Gabe Davis was third, 599.
All right. The next St. Brown. I like it.
Well, he's not quite on pace for that, but yeah.
That's a good stat though. So he and where do we think he can realistically get
I
this
mean,
season?
if he picks up another 200 yards, then he's up to 8th out of 38.
What if he gets to 500 on the season?
500, then he'd be 5th out of the 38.
I think that can happen.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess he's also competing with Jacob Cowing, who's still a rookie. Javon Baker's still a rookie. Those guys combined for 50 yards this year, though. So, yeah, he's a 4th round pick and definitely overachieving.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
I like that a lot there. Okay, let's go to the offensive line now, Henry. This is one where, I mean, they've probably been very overachieving some weeks, very underachieving other weeks.
Yeah, that's a tough one. It's probably about what you'd expect. I mean, it's just tough with injuries to figure out how you factor that in. But
fair.
I mean, realistically, you probably don't expect them to be healthy through the first 7 weeks of the season. The fact that Palshevsky's played well is good. I guess one by one, Garrett Bowles, he is exactly what you thought. Couple penalties. Other than that, he's been great, and that's what he's been. Ben Powers, I think he's playing better than last year, but I think you probably hoped that he'd play better than last year.
Yeah.
Quinn Minor's the other guy who's been playing consistently. Maybe a little bit underwhelming, but that's more so because I thought he was the best guard in the NFL.
Right.
And so that's a tough standard to live up to. McGlinchey has overachieved. Palshevsky's overachieved. Wattenberg, probably what you expected. Forsyth, probably what you expected. He played well this week, didn't play well in his first start. I'd say overall it's about what you'd expect from that group.
That's fair. And the Broncos have the highest paid offensive line room in the NFL. One of
Number
the highest
5.
paid,
Number
top
5.
5 highest paid offensive line rooms in the NFL. And they're on weeks they live up to that. Overall, I think they're haven't been consistent enough to be there. So maybe slightly underachieving, but I'm kind of with you. Where they should be, they need to be elite. And one of the things that Quinn and Garrett, but Quinn really started, he said in this offseason, we will win and lose games depending on how we as an offensive line play. And that has been so spot on. When the offensive line has played well, the Broncos have played well.
That's football.
You said what?
That's football.
Yeah. For this team, it's even more, though,
Okay.
I think, being how much they're based off the running game and a rookie quarterback. And you said McGlinchey has overachieved. I think he overachieved this past week. First 2 weeks of the season, though, before he got injured, were really tough for the offensive line. And
As a whole. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, as a whole. But he was in there, and the Broncos lost both of those games. Then the
but a lot of
offensive
that
line...
just free rushers, which, again, maybe Bo's not calling the protections. Pass
The
block.
offensive line was bad the first 2 weeks of the season. It was so underwhelming.
Yeah.
And they lose both of those games. Then since then, they're 4-1, and the offensive line has played a lot better. So I really do think if the offensive line plays well, Broncos are going to beat any team they play. If they play poorly, they're going to lose whoever they play. I expect them to play very well this week against the Panthers. That's why I think they're going to absolutely destroy the Panthers on Sunday.
Yeah, number 1 in pass block win rate. That means you hold your block for at least 2.5 seconds.
What was it the first 2 weeks, though? I'd be curious.
I can't see. But yeah, it was still high, though. I know I've written it somewhere because, again, it's free rushers. Like, you're just not... There are plays where you've got 3 guys blocking 2 guys on one side, and you got 2 guys blocking 3 guys on the other, and so it's not necessarily losing blocks. That was a Seahawks game in particular. Steelers, they were losing blocks, but again, like, that's... That's T.J. Watt and Cam Hayward. Like that's the toughest battle maybe in the NFL. Except honestly, the Chargers have played really well. And then run block win rate, they're 14th, which is underwhelming. But you combine 1st and 14th, it's an average 7.5.
Yeah.
Top 5 paid offensive line.
Yeah.
Like you could say slightly underwhelming.
Slightly
but
underwhelming,
I would also
exactly.
say that maybe you're overpaying a couple of those guys in the first place. So
That's fair,
What do you expect?
but the Broncos did that. It's not like
Definitely.
someone else made the Broncos
Again,
overpay
so it's
for
just
those guys.
it's just based on what your expectations were. And I think coming into the season, McGlinchey's outperformed him, Powers has outperformed him. Other guys are closer to neutral.
The good news is the Broncos are trending in the right direction there. Let's jump over to the defensive side of the ball. And before we do, I want to give a shout out to our friends over at DNVR right here. Yours truly want to give a shout out to us because this weekend we got to let you know about the tailgate that's coming to Empower Field a Mile High. Our tailgates are the absolute best. Love them. Always a great turnout. The perfect view, plus the best food and drinks. We've got Primo Hoagies at all of our tailgates, Breckenridge Brew, Breckenridge Distillery. We've got games. There's always beer pong that's popping off. We've got awesome music. It's just a perfect place to be before a Broncos game. You can get season passes or you can get individual passes over at thednvr.com/events. And we've got so many other events like takeovers for Nuggets and Avs coming up as well. So if you want to find out about those, get information, get tickets, go to thednvr.com/events. And if you want to find out the most up-to-date information, make sure you're following us on social at DNVR_sports.
And make sure you're listening to What Chaos because hockey season is back. What Chaos is the all-city hockey podcast hosted by Pete Blackburn and DJ Bean. It's mostly hockey with a little bit of nonsense, some interviews with players, coaches, notable personalities in the world of hockey, appearances from other local all-city NHL hosts, just like our guys at DNVR. So they're live 4 times a week at noon Eastern on YouTube. You can catch them wherever you listen to podcasts. Again, hockey season's back. The Avs are finally playing well. I was there Friday night. It was like 8 rows back from McKinnon's overtime goal where he went 1-on-3 and just decided to end it by himself. But yeah, hockey season. Make sure you're tuned to them. They're a lot of fun. And also make sure you check out their new merch collection, which just dropped in partnership with Just Dishin'. They've got shirts, they've got hoodies, they've got hats, they've got accessories. So you can go visit justdishin.com to check it out. And again, listen to What Chaos podcast.
And shout out Bet365, our presenting sponsor. Let's dish on the defense now, Henry. Vance Joseph, unbelievably overachieving.
Yeah, definitely. He definitely is. Yeah, he has the guys to now play the defense that I think he's wanted to play for forever. Against that Wade Phillips, just send a bunch of rushers, blitz a lot. They would say they're not blitzing, but they're sending 5 more than any other team in the league, and that means you play man coverage behind them. And when you get home fast enough, it's the rush, it's the defensive front that's making it all work. So, as much as the cornerbacks are playing well, it wouldn't matter if those guys weren't getting home as fast as they are.
So then defensive line, are they overachieving?
Oh, definitely. I think Zach Allen's playing better than last year. DJ Jones is playing better than he has as a Bronco. But again, I mean, it's because he's being asked to do what he was asked to do with the 49ers, which is why you signed him in the first place. And then you ask him to do something totally different than what he was good at. He was still a good player, but just wasn't providing much of a spark. But he's overachieving. John Franklin Myers is doing exactly what he's always done. Maybe he doesn't rack up the stats that Zach Allen does, but consistently does his job, is going to wind up with that exact same stat line he always has. And Malcolm Roach, I haven't looked at the numbers. I'd imagine this is a slightly expanded role for him. And in a slightly expanded role, he's keeping up about the same production. Yep. So really, it's Zach Allen, DJ Jones who are overachieving, and the rest are kind of doing what you thought. And when you invest like they have in the defensive line, that's what you want.
Exactly. Now, outside linebackers, I would say also very much overachieving right now. Nick Bonito on a 5-game sack streak ties Von Miller for the second longest sack streak of a Bronco. Only Von Miller has more, and it's just one more game more. If Nick Bonito can get to Andy Dalton this week, he's going to set the record, tie Von Miller for the longest sack streak in Broncos history. The Broncos have not had Baron Browning for most of the season, and they have still had 10 different guys have a sack. Now, that's obviously beyond just the outside linebackers, but my expectations were not very high for this outside linebacker group, and I think they have way outperformed them. So I think they're overachieving.
The crazy thing, so Nick Bonito has 5 sacks in, 7 games now?
Yeah.
He had 5.5 in the first 5 games last year.
Wow,
and so, again, the key this year is that he just keeps it up into the second half of the season, which, only 2.5 the rest of the way last year. Me and Todd talked about it a little bit, but he's getting them in a more sustainable way. He's winning. It's not just taking advantage of slow offensive linemen and bad calls from the Bears offensive coordinator and those sorts of things. But yeah, it's kind of crazy that he did it last year too. And he didn't do it all consecutively. He had a 2.5 sack game. But if he keeps it up, then all of a sudden the Broncos they have something to work with.
Totally agree. Inside linebackers, Henry, I think this group, the adversity that they've had to deal with Alex going down, Alex was balling out before he got injured. And then Justin Strnad has really taken a step up. And how about Cody Barton being a game changer this past week, at least? I think for what this group has had to deal with, they have way overachieved.
Yeah, definitely. Especially given what they have to deal with. If you're just talking production they've gotten versus what you expect at the start of the season, they've still overachieved because Alex Singleton was playing the best football of his career. You sub in Justin Strnad, who has played really well, statistically has played really well. And then Cody Barton, I've seen people say he had like an incredible game last week. He did play really well, but I would say he almost had like an incredible game, because there were a couple of plays that get called back that were a big difference. Or I guess not called back. He did play very, very well, but it wasn't.
If anyone gets,
I saw one headline in particular.
If anyone gets a strip, do you want to say what that headline is?
No.
Okay. If anyone gets a, I truly don't know what you're talking about.
No, it was something like it's like for the century or like, and it's like it was a really good game.
To get a strip sack, to get I guess technically a fumble recovery that wasn't called an interception, a fumble recovery,
that's the thing.
And a touchdown, and to be on a defense that gave up 10 points and I think 3 points when really he was playing because at the very end of the game, that was garbage time. That's about as good as it gets. Now, what I will say is that was clearly an outlier. I want to see him have more games like that, obviously. But in that game, that was a pretty amazing game. I don't know if you could ask for more. I mean, I guess he could have caught the pick that hit both of his hands.
Caught
but
the pick or like
still
the fumble.
very impressive.
Yeah. Definitely a good game. Because of that game, he probably has at least met expectations. But my expectations are low. He's overachieved my expectations.
Boom, there we go. All right, Henry, let's jump to the secondary. This group,
Yep.
big time, thanks to Riley Moss, has overachieved for me as well. Brandon Jones has actually been more of a playmaker than I expected, so he's overachieved. PJ Locke has kind of been what I expected in a good way. Pat Surtain has overachieved how good I thought he already was. And Jaquan's been just as good as I was hoping, but it's Riley Moss for me that takes this group over the line to be an overachieving group.
Yeah. It's definitely overachieving. I really don't have too much to even nitpick. I mean, the penalties, I guess, for one. I think Pat is still like, there's like 1 or 2 DBs who have more flags thrown on him this year, which isn't what you like. Riley's had the couple deep ones. Jaquan's had more than you'd expect from him. But I mean, again, that's really getting in the nitpicking. That's the only complaint you could have is just that a couple too many flags, and when you play a bunch of man coverage, that's just something that sometimes happens, and I bet it all balances out over the course of this season.
And as Mile High Sign points out in thank you, points out in the Toyota chat, says PS2 equals Defensive Player of the Year. He's right in there. He's the best cornerback in the NFL. That's kind of my expectation for him every single season, but the fact that he's truly in the conversation for Defensive Player of the Year just, takes it that step further. Special teams. Let's just round that out before we jump into Super Chats, Henry. Where would you say that unit is?
I think you'd have to go over Chiefs. I mean, the thing is, I thought that they were the best special teams group in the NFL, and so it's tough to say that. But, I mean, how many punts have they downed inside the 3-yard line?
An incredible
amount.
It's
just over and over. And a couple of those are early, and some of that's like randomness and luck, but it's broken their way, and obviously, like they've been playing so well that's just going to happen for them. Maybe expected some more explosive plays in the return game, but in the past 3 weeks, you've seen more of those, so you can't even really nitpick that all that much. So I think they've overachieved. Lutz is making his kicks now too, and I guess that's a big
I was
one.
going to say, I expect Will Lutz to be named AFC Special Teams Player of the Week this week. I expect Cody Barton to be AFC Defensive Player of the Week in the AFC this week. I think the Broncos are going to get some big-time awards, and man, what a return to New Orleans for Will Lutz. He was just money, and he was absolutely loving it as the fans were booing him. Before we get out of here, let's jump into some Super Chats. First one coming in from A2332, who says, would it be realistic to trade Stidham or Zach Wilson to a team like the Browns or Dolphins that are battling injuries at quarterback? Best leverage for good tight end. Interesting. Well, the news just came out that Tua is going to practice this week. Maybe that means he plays this weekend. I would imagine if he's practicing, he's probably going to play. So you might have missed your window with the Dolphins for trading a quarterback. The Browns, how are they not playing Jameis Winston? I mean, if I'm the Browns, I'd probably rather have Jameis than Zach Wilson or Jarrett Stidham. So one of those two teams, I'm not sure. But there could be an injury that pops up in the next few weeks where that would make it appealing. But, man, I also thought Zach Wilson would have been a great spot for the Dolphins.
Yeah, I think they knew all along that they were probably patching things. It would be great. If you can move him and get a pick, why not? I think there is value in keeping him, and that shouldn't be forgotten. Because, again, in theory, what you do is you move on from Stidham this offseason. You choose Zach Wilson to re-sign instead of Stidham. Stidham goes and gets basically the same contract the Broncos gave him. And if that's the case, they get like a third-round draft pick, probably comp pick. So you get a third-round pick just for letting him walk. You keep Zach Wilson, and since he's been on the team long enough at that point, you let him walk, and then you get that pick. So are you really getting better draft picks than you would if you just hold on to him? Like, if you can get a seventh for Zach Wilson, odds are just making him your backup again next year and then moving on is going to get you more money. But again, it is what it is. If somebody gives you an offer, you'd rather have those picks sooner, then there's no reason not to. So see what's out there. Why not?
And in terms of best leverage for a good tight end, that's probably just going to be a pick swap or a pick for a tight end. It's so rare to get player for player trades, but I like the idea where you're at, A2332. Next one from Mile High Singh, who says, would you take Bo's trajectory to be Jake Plummer?
No. And I love Jake Plummer. But again, like the point of a rookie quarterback is that you roll the dice and hope that you've got an all-pro or a guy who's just going to keep winning. Because what we've seen over and over again, and you look at the teams that are underachieving this year, it's a lot of teams who are giving a lot of money to quarterbacks. Like, if you want to give $50 million to a quarterback, he'd better be Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson or Patrick Mahomes. There's only a handful of those guys. And if you wind up even giving all that money to Jalen Hurts, and all of a sudden you're not having the same talent in the trenches that you had before, I think we're finally seeing the market reset with so many of these teams that everybody thought would be good. Now you look at the Jaguars as well.
I was going to say Trevor Lawrence is the
it's
example.
Over and over and over. So it's like, would you 10 years ago, would you take, Broncos go to the AFC Championship game? It's like, yeah, it's probably on average better than the result, just given the randomness of the situation. But still, the goal is a Super Bowl. So you go, like, there's no reason to take that when you think you have a window. It's the same thing here where it's like the point of winning the lottery is winning the lottery, not just like, hey, look, I almost won the lottery. That doesn't really help.
Yeah, but if you almost win the lottery and get, $500,000 payout by
that's not how. There's only one winner.
Well, no, there's lotteries where there's like if you get 4 out of 5.
If you can get that, then you get that.
And I have to imagine that's what Mile High Singh is saying. Isn't the exact career of Jake Plummer, but like you get that caliber of quarterback.
And that's just not good enough. The way quarterbacks are paid, you could make that work back in the day, but at this point. Again, like you just see it over and over again with all these teams that are giving out $50 million. I mean, look at the Cowboys. All of a sudden they look thin because they're doing like modern NFL, you either have a quarterback on a rookie contract or you have a quarterback who's really one of the best and you can sustain it for a decade. Otherwise, you're kind of caught in the middle. And that just hasn't ever really gotten anybody anywhere.
It's a great question, Mile High Singh. And
Definitely.
Final one coming in from Z, who says, would there be any reason why Sutton's production has gone down? Could Broncos sell at the trade deadline? I don't think the Broncos are selling at the trade deadline. In fact, if anything, they'll be buyers, which maybe we'll talk about later this week.
Yeah, I think I don't look at them as sellers or buyers. I think they should just be, You set up your shop at the flea market. You take a look around too, because like Baron Browning. What we've seen is that you don't really need him to have a great pass rush. And while you'd love to have him as insurance, you're also probably losing him this offseason. So if you can go get something for him, it probably makes sense given where the Broncos are just timeline-wise to get something for him. At the same time, like you could use a tight end. So there's just a lot. Buy or sell, do what you got to do.
A trip to the flea market. Maybe we'll do that later this week.
Yeah.
Thank you all so much for rolling with us. We got a special guest on tomorrow's show, so make sure you stay tuned. We'll see you at 10 a.m.
We all silly like the mayor.